and good day. We are moving on to part 10 of Refuge Recovery by Levine, the Buddhist path to recovering from addiction. Are you ready for communication? We are on page 51, and here we go. And my glasses are filthy. Let me try that again. Our guiding principles is the non-harmful use of communication. What? Our guiding principle is the non-harmful use of communication. You want peace in the world? Learn that one. Having firmly established the correct view, understanding, which is number 1, thought and intention, which is number 2, about the path to recovery, we must then align our actions, which is 4, with these intentions. This includes realizing the power of communication, which is number 3, to cause harm or to bring about positive change and happiness. What? When we have wise intentions, we abstain from speaking harmful words. The Buddha classified speech that is harsh, malicious, vain, untrue, or gossipy as being harmful misuse of communication. Being wise and careful about what we say, write, and otherwise communicate will help us in our process of recovery, and it will build a safe, keyword safe, and welcoming community. A good basic guideline for our communication is to reflect on whether what we are saying is true, useful, kind, and appropriately timed. There's a concept for you. There may be times when we are honest in what we say, but our words are too brutal or harsh. And there may be other times when we are deliberately being kind with the words we choose, but what we are saying is not totally true. Rigorous honesty is our core intention. But we also must pay attention to the timing of our delivery and whether or not it is even useful to say. I'm only laughing because, damn, it's so simple, but we overcomplicate it. We demand. Sometimes it is best to wait for a private moment with someone to tell them a difficult truth. If we just blab the truth in front of others, it may be inappropriate or unkind. I've been accused of that myself. Slipping into that victim mode or that state of wanting to have confirmation or validation because you're in so much dissonance. So we can all be accused of these things. So I'm laughing at myself too. We all know the consequences of dishonesty. When we lie, we live in fear of being caught or with the guilt of misleading others. Many of us have spent our lives making up stories. Many of us have spent our lives making up stories about who we are and where we came from. Those lies built on one another until we don't know what we have told to whom. When we come to the path of recovery, it takes some time and much intentional practice to learn to be rigorously honest with ourselves and others. Harsh speech has been the habit of many of our members for most of their lives. We have always loved the power and the shock value of swearing. For some of us, even years into recovery, our vocabulary hasn't changed much. But our intentions have changed a lot. Amen. Some of us stop swearing altogether and others still swear quite a bit. But now the use of swear words serves more as an exclamation point to illustrate our sentiment than a sword drawn to cause harm. True that. It is our feeling that swearing isn't always harsh or malicious. I agree. Like everything else, though, it depends upon our intention. In this case, our intention in using the language. There is also a difference between talking about someone who isn't present with the intention to cause harm or with the intention to share concern. Most of us felt the effect of gossip or the he said, she said game. When we look at our intention behind gossiping, we often realize that we seek power through sharing information. This is not useful. This is not a useful form of communication. And a friend of mine just helped me out with that recently, actually. Now, through many of us still get caught up in gossiping, we can bring mindfulness to what it feels like and what our motivations are. This can help us become more aware of the negative consequences it may have. And for mine, it was dissonance. I was trying to battle with dissonance. As far as being on the receiving end of gossip, it can be wise to take on the attitude that anything people say when we are not present is none of our business. That piece of advice can save us from a lot of suffering, which is what my friend was telling me, pretty much. Basing our communication on the principle of kindness is key. And so I guess in that moment, I was seeking kindness out of dissonance. Not useful at all. Basing our communication on the principle of kindness is key. This is why you need a support group, guys. And don't make one person your support group. That's deadly. Basing our communication on the principle of kindness is key. What the kind thing to do will change from intention to situation. From situation to situation. What that kind thing to do will change from situation to situation, and kindness does not always mean it will feel good to say or to hear. Sometimes we have to say things out of kindness, even though we know our words will hurt someone's ego or feelings. The Buddha spoke of the inability of praise and blame, fame and disrepute, pleasure and pain, gain and loss. Here it is important to accept that while some will offer praise, others will place blame. Once you begin the recovery process, you will find that some people will be very happy for you and praise you for being in recovery. Others will be critical and blame you for selling out or giving in, like when we say recovery is not for quitters. Practicing speech that is true, useful, kind, and appropriately timed is our intention in recovering as a recovering addict. In our meeting and meditation groups, we have the opportunity to practice communication with one another. When we gather, we share our struggles and successes with others, hence the community. Valuable. It's valuable. You need to have a community. When we gather, we share our struggles and successes with others, discussing the difficulties we encounter as well as how our recovery is progressing. Humility is very important when we speak about our recovery, to stay open and honest while also staying right-sided. While we are in recovery, we need to be able to, it's funny, the right-sided thing is funny for me because for me, I think of the left as the light side and the right as not the light side. So while we are in recovery, we need to be able to strike a balance between not allowing our ego to do all the talking and not letting our low self-esteem to only present what is wrong with us. I'm going to repeat that. While we're in recovery, we need to be able to strike a balance between not allowing our ego to do all the talking and not letting our low self-esteem to only present what is wrong with us. Remember that all intentional acts have a karmic consequence. Wise understanding, intentions, and actions. Remember that as your karma. What was your understanding of the situation? What was your intentions in the situation? What were your actions in the situations? Did you purposely confuse others? Or did you have some sort of delusion about your situation? Really think about it. When you are in the process or in union with somebody and you're having what is your understanding of what you're doing? What is your intention of what you're doing? What are your actions going to reflect about your intentions and your understanding? It's not that complicated, guys. This includes every form of communication. As we bring mindfulness to our thoughts and feelings, we will begin. Your thoughts and your feelings? What's that? As we bring mindfulness to our thoughts and feelings, we will begin to see more and more clearly what our true motivations and intentions are. And if somebody doesn't have a freaking clue what they're doing, or they're flippant about it, does not mean you don't have to actually take the responsible role and recognize it and get the fuck out of the way. With clarity of intention comes renunciation. Triple confirmation right there. With clarity of intention comes renunciation. With renunciation comes wise communication. So nothing is fucked here. In circumstances like this, you just have to own your own reality and what you're willing to put up with, or what you are actually co-creating. Don't waste your energy on bullshit. You're too precious. I'm too precious. And this whole process takes amplified effort. Yeah. With clarity of intention comes renunciation. With renunciation comes wise communication. This whole process takes applied effort and will lead to freedom from addiction and all other forms of suffering. Hallelujah. And there's chapter 8. We're 11, so we're going to continue with action/engagement. We abstain from all substances and behaviors that could lead to suffering. We practice forgiveness towards all people we have harmed or been harmed by, including ourselves, through both meditative training and direct amends. Compassion, non-attachment, appreciation, generosity, kindness, honesty, integrity, and service are our guiding principles. When we commit to recovery, we must have a personal dedication to purify our actions from the things that cause harm. The minimum commitment necessary for the path towards recovery and freedom is renunciation of violence, dishonesty, sexual misconduct, and intoxication. This is not just for the sake of nobility. It is connected to our understanding of cause and effect, aka karma. Mindfulness is a must if we want to be aware of and present with the emotions that provoke harmful actions. First and foremost, an awareness of our inner experience, which includes thoughts, feelings, preferences, emotions, conditions, and sensations, require a mind that is free from the obscuring effects of intoxications. Mind and mood-altering drugs such as alcohol, marijuana, narcotics, barbiturates, and hallucinogenics cloud the mind and create an inability to be mindful and fully present for the inner experience. Now, I think there's a difference between hallucinations, like someone dropping acid for hours on end, and something like Buffalo Various, which is a 15-minute sacred medicine trip. So I just wanted to make that point. It is clear that the recovery process requires a sober and drug-free mind. And also, of course, like what they're speaking about here, your intention when you're going into a sacred medicine ceremony. You're talking 15 minutes and your entire world can change. That's a lot different than, I'm just going to go to the concert and take a bunch of hallucinogenics, which is how I used to roll. So I just want to point that difference out because it is hugely different. These restrictions could not apply to the prescribed psychotropic medications that some people need in order to function skillfully in the world. I think everyone should take Buffalo Various and see how what it teaches them, but that's just me. Some addicts may complain that they should be able to continue to indulge if they themselves were not addicts to a particular substance. I subscribed to that because I've never been an alcoholic and I'm an American. I was like, well, if you're heartbroken or if you're there's a celebration, it's okay for me to have a drink because I just have a drink. So again, I still have to deal with this because parts of me still agree with that. That's my truth. Like I said in previous videos, when I first got to my vacation spot here. It was like, the first day I was here, I was like, yeah, just get a drink because it's free and it's at the bar. And, but I haven't drank anything since. No, that's a lie. I took a swig yesterday, because we did some manual labor and it was like, yay. So, a swig. I guess I should stick to Powerade though, according to this book. So, if you're struggling with this book, no, you're not the only one, because there is no struggle in it, but it's telling me it's not the thing. I'm an Aquarian. I don't like to be told what to do. But I'm here to learn and seek and be of better loving ways to myself. So, again, we all have our little journeys to go on. We have to want to. And I do want to be the healthiest, best version of me possible. And I know I will freaking get there to the best of my abilities till the day I die. That's what I'm going to strive for. So yeah, these words are wise and they make sense. The restriction can not only apply to the prescriptive. Some addicts may complain that they should be able to continue to indulge if they themselves were not addicted to a particular substance. Take the alcoholic who wishes to smoke marijuana, or the heroin addict who wishes to drink alcohol. While recovering addicts may find reasons to complain about their abstinence-based approach, it is ultimately necessary because we are taking on a way of life that demands clarity and mindfulness. Yeah. We follow in the footsteps of Buddha. Yeah, I would never take a swig in front of the Buddha. We follow in the footsteps of the Buddha, and he was clear about the necessity of a fully sober mind in order to awaken and recover our true nature. And if that's the goal, damn it, that's a small price to pay. Total freedom like that? Yes, this approach asks a lot of us. And it also promises a lot. Not just a return to the normal suffering of the non-addict's life, but a spiritual awakening, a life of freedom from suffering altogether. Is any price too heavy or difficult to pay for that? I think not. Tolerance and compassion is our next little chapter here. From the foundation of a clear, sober mind, we can train ourselves to respond to pain with compassionate investigation and refrain from actions such as retaliation or self-harm that will only lead to more suffering. I can testify for that in the last few days. It's true. Through our practice of mindfulness, we learn more and more about how to tolerate discomfort, unpleasantness, pain, and sorrow. As we become skilled at tolerating and investigating pain, that has been my walk the last few days for sure, and it does feel very empowering, I must say. It does. It just does. Whew. As we become skilled at tolerating and investigating pain, we will be less likely to act in ways that are harmful. Eventually, we will come to understand that compassion is always the appropriate response to all painful experiences, and we will learn to meet all the pain in our lives and in the world with loving kindness and compassion. This is developed through mindfulness and the heart practices. Okay, we're at 18. We're going to forge on to nonviolence, okay? As we commit to nonviolence on every level of existence, we find that the world seems to become a safer place. Many addicts have lived a life of violence and abuse, if not physically, at least emotionally. Many of us come from backgrounds of neglect and trauma. Yeah. For some, violence is all we have ever known, a necessary survival instinct to fight our way out of the hellish situations we were in. I have to confess, the people that I'm vacationing with here, amazing. Val, and Ty, you saw them in the previous video. They're really strong fighters. Like, they're physically, like, you don't mess with them type of fighters. And they're supposed to be start teaching me how to fight, but not to like fight. I told them I need to learn how to protect myself in situations. It's interesting. It's the duality there. Many addicts have lived up, because I'm excited about learning how to protect myself, because I'm a girl that's been raped a zillion times. I was not laughing, but I mean, I was raped 14 years. For 14 years, I was raped. So, in these times, you know, being weird as they can be, I think it's a pretty handy thing that no one's ever taught me, and I'm 40. So self-protection is being taught. Is that considered violence? Or am I protecting myself by learning how, or I will be learning how to fight to protect myself? Dualities. As we commit to nonviolence in every level of experience, we find that the world seems to become a safer place. Yeah, because if I know how to protect myself, I'm not going to be afraid of going into a situation. I'll be more passionate and more open-minded and be able to maneuver the situation with confidence. So says Jeannette. Anyway, many addicts have lived a life of violence and abuse, if not physically, at least emotionally. Many of us come from backgrounds of neglect and trauma. For some, violence is all we have ever known, a necessary survival instinct to fight our way out of the hellish situations we were in. To understand this and have lived it too. We understand this and have lived it too. And we have found that a nonviolent way of life is much more conducive to recovery, perhaps even a necessity. I will take time and probably years of imperfection in this realm, but eventually the recovering addict can and will establish a life of nonviolent actions. Yeah. There are many levels to violence and many subtleties to nonviolence. For most, not killing is the most obvious and easiest form of nonviolence, but when asked to include animals, fish, insects, and all other sentient beings in the vow of nonviolence, many resist. Sometimes violently. We also understand that we live in a world with a food chain and that some level of killing is unavoidable in order to survive. We know that even a vegan lifestyle kills insects and earthworms in the production of vegetables. We do not ask for perfection. It is impossible to go through life without harming anything, but we ask for a sincere attempt to minimize the amount of harm we cause. We try to abstain from intentionally killing. Then there is fighting, the non-lethal physical violence. Many addicts have found themselves in the occasional street brawl or bar fight, throwing dishes across the dining room, or perhaps slapping their children or spouse. When we have no tolerance for pain and no patience with discomfort. Oh, brother. When we have no tolerance for pain and no patience with discomfort, we may strike out at others. Raise your hand if you know that one well on both ends. When we have little or no control over our emotions, we can be involved in physical violence over and over again. As part of the purification of our actions or karma, we turn towards nonviolence. No more fighting, hitting, or spitting. This does not, however, prohibit us from participating in sports or other physical aggressive activities such as martial arts, boxing, roller derby, and slam dancing. Yes! We've been slam dancing too. Although it takes not more just dancing than slam dancing, but stumble dancing, does that count? Sorry. Although it takes more indirect form, the way we communicate with the world can be another form of violence. One that we experience on a daily basis as both spectators and participants. Harsh speech, dirty looks, obscene gestures, and offensive texts and emails are also subtle forms of violence. Our communications have power, the ability to cause harm or harmony. It all comes back to our intentions and our actions. We don't have to become perfect to recover, but we must try to abstain from creating more negativity in our lives. This is why dissonance, really, I battle with it. We all battle. Anyone that's ever been in dissonance, we battle with it. When someone says all sorts of shit to you, and then 10 minutes later acts like everything's fine, everything's great, like, and it's like, isn't that not violence? It attacks our emotions, it attacks our core, it attacks our ego, it attacks our heart, it attacks where we live. And then we're just supposed to be like, oh, okay. That's not sustainable. Violent actions have negative karmic consequences, and that karma could manifest as guilt, shame, or self-hatred. And I gotta say, I don't feel any of those things, so I guess I am very well aware of myself. That may lead us to relapse, so we abstain from all forms of violence to support our recovery. We must. Namaste. We will continue on with honesty, which is on page bottom of page 58. See you guys soon. Namaste.